Hi, this is Sarah from CH Homestead. So tonight we are making some soap. I thought I'd take you guys along for the journey. I love making goat milk soap. Love what it does for my skin, and I thought you guys might like to know how we do it. So here we go. All right, so first thing I like to do, I like to get everything set up so I don't forget any steps or anything like that. So I've got my scent sitting here so I don't forget it. We are going to be doing apple cider because we're getting close to the holidays. I've never used this brand of scent, so I'm hoping it doesn't have a high flash point because then that can mess up your soap. But either way, you guys will get to see how it works. I've got my pigment mixed up in some of the oil that I've melted down. And I've got my lye measured out. All my oils are already heated up and at the temperature that around what I like them. I like the overall temperature when I'm mixing stuff together to be between 85, 95, and they need to be within 10 degrees of each other. This is the goat milk. I've already measured that out as well, and we will show you the steps that it takes to mix everything together, and then we'll show you pouring it in the molds and all that stuff. So I can actually take this off of my scale because I don't need my scale anymore. I've already measured everything out. Got Mackenzie helping me out today. One of the things you want to remember when you're making soap of any kind is that lye can be very dangerous. Lye can burn you. You can get second, third degree burns from lye. So you want to be cautious. They recommend wearing gloves. And if you have never made soap before, I recommend you wear gloves because things splash, they move around. And if it gets on your skin, it can burn you. One thing you can do is keep vinegar nearby. So if you do get it on your skin, the vinegar will neutralize the lye and you can pour it on your skin. And then, wash it after it's been neutralized. So always make sure you're adding the lye. Never add anything to a lye mixture because it can actually, not necessarily explode, but it causes a really bad reaction and it can pop in your face and do different things like that. So let's get started. Okay, so we've got our frozen goat milk. Very important, milk scorches. So we use frozen to make sure it doesn't get too hot. And you want to do things slowly. You don't want to add the lye too fast because it can scorch it as well. So I always have tons of these rubber spatulas available because when I do different colors, things like that, I have a whole stack over here. So what you'll do, you'll sprinkle some lye in. And then you're just going to carefully mix it around. And it will start to react. And it'll start to melt the frozen goat milk. And biggest thing to remember is you need to have patience. It takes time. You do not want to rush the process because if your goat milk gets too warm, you get a really ugly brown color in your soap. And it doesn't hurt. You can still use the soap. It just doesn't look as pretty. So you just kind of swirl it around a little bit. Once it starts to break down, this rubber spatula will actually break this frozen stuff up. We're just stirring it, mixing it around. And this process can take some time. But like I said, patience is a virtue. You don't want to rush the process. And you can see that it's starting to break down. I like to use glass bowls or stainless steel containers when I'm making my soap, just to ensure there's not going to be any type of chemical reaction. You don't want to use non-stick pans or anything when you're actually doing the soap making. I do use a regular non-stick pan to just heat up my oils, but then I transfer it over to that glass one. And when I'm making big batches, I have this huge stainless steel bowl. But I'm making a smaller batch right now. As you can see, it's starting to break the milk down. And I always try to make sure that my oils are about at the temp that I want them at when I'm going to be combining them, because you can always heat the oils up a little more if you need to, but you cannot leave your lye and goat milk mixture sit for too long, because it'll start to solidify, and then it's no good. You have to pitch it and then start all over. But it's super simple to heat the oil up if you need to. You also want to make sure you have a thermometer to check your temperatures for when you're mixing everything together. So after we get all this broke down, we'll check the temperatures of everything. And thanks to Kenzie there, she's checking the temperature of our oils, and it's at about 89 degrees, so that's perfect.
I'll say about the time the milk is done, it'll be at exactly probably 85 or lower.
And that's if you rush this process of melting down your goat milk, then this can get super warm and like 100 degrees, even higher, and then you have other issues.
Just trying to show them how the temperature thing works.
So we're at about 63 degrees, so we're looking good right now. The cooler you keep this, the better off you're going to be, and the whiter your soap's going to be. Sometimes, like if I'm making a really big batch and I'm melting a bunch down, I'll even put this bowl in an ice bath just to keep my temperature down. Always make sure you're scraping your sides too to make sure you're not losing any of that lye. The lye is the only chemical that you need to put in for making soap, but you have to have that reaction in order to make soap. To my knowledge, there's no way to make soap without lye, unfortunately. Just keeping things moving. And you want it to stay this white cream color. If it starts turning brown, you've probably scorched it and you've gone too fast.
I was going to say too, when we first started making soap, if it melted too quickly, it would be cloudy and it would break.
Yeah.
So
when the temperatures are super high, you get that splitting of the soap, because it gets even hotter when it's in the mold. And you can even stick your bars in your fridge if you've got space. You know, if it's really hot in your house or anything like that, it's a good idea, because you will get splitting on the top of your bar. I mean, it doesn't affect the quality of the bar, it just makes it not look as pretty. And we all like our soap to look pretty. Last bit of lye. Got that last little piece that's not melted yet.
I'm trying to get to focus on the temp, but it's currently at 81 for that. It's like not focusing.
And the oil's at 88.
So, almost perfect.
So we're within those 10 degrees. I'm just making sure that the lye is going to be all broken down, because you don't want the crystallizing lye in your soap either.
Because that could be just as dangerous, correct, as the...
Well, it's not really dangerous. It just, again, doesn't look pretty. Because after it goes through the process, the chemical reaction, the lye is no longer dangerous. It just, okay, you end up with little crystals and it breaks up your color and it doesn't look as pretty. Okay, so that is all melted down. Just going to check my temperatures again. So we're 83 and 88, so we're good. We're within 5 degrees. So then I bring my oil mixture over because, again, you always add the lye. So I added the lye to the goat milk, and I'm going to add the lye mixture to my oil. And I use some of this oil to mix up my pigment as well because it's a powdered pigment. So you want to get it reconstituted in some of the oil mixture. And I'll show you how we add that too. So you also want an immersion blender. This is the one I use. It's a Bella brand. You can use any brand, any type of emulsion blender. It's a great, you just need it. It just mixes things better. So when you're going to use one of these, if you've never used one before, you kind of want to burp it because it gets like an air pocket. I'm going to set this off away to make sure I don't touch it. I will use it when I need to scrape the last bit in. So I'm going to pour some of the lye mixture in. I kind of give it some swirling first. And then do some pulsating. So see, that's not a dark brown. It's a nice creamy color. I'm going to pour the rest in here. Make sure I've got all of that in there. And that does happen sometimes. This is why we have a table that we'll just be able to wipe down later. Burping it again because it fell out. I'm going to pulsate. Stir a little bit. Pulsate some more. So it's already coming to a light trace. So I don't know if you can see that.
Here, let me get under.
But when I lift it, you can kind of see where I've lifted it. Or you can trace on the top. This is a very light trace. This is when I like to add my pigment. Kenzie, can you hold that for me real quick? So it doesn't plop back out on me.
And we're hoping that when this soap is cured and all that, that it will look just like apple cider when you drink it.
So then we're gonna kind of stir it up a little bit. Because the colors do change after they've cured. So you kind of want your color to be darker.
Because it'll end up being lighter.
Because it'll lighten up. So I always err on the side of caution and just make it as dark as I can. And things too I could have done. I could have separated some of this, left some white and done a swirl or things like that. There's endless possibilities when you're making soap of the different designs you can make, but I'm just doing a simple one at the moment, all one color. So now it's getting to a heavier trace. You can see the ripples. Hopefully you can see the ripples. Like when I pick it up, and if I do this, you can see it sitting on the top. So at this point, and I'm hoping for the best because I've never used this set, every set has a different flash point. So I've actually never used Home and Garden. It's got such a high flash point, it turns your soap mix into, it looks like mashed potatoes, and you don't want that.
Same with essential oils that you buy like from like Walmart or any other store. Do not use essential oils because their flash point just doesn't work out for the soap.
At least they've never worked out for me. So feel free to leave a message in the comments if you know of a good scent to use or anything like this. But Kenzie, if you want to hold that for me again. So I always put an ounce of oils in. It just keeps a really good scent. So here we go. Here goes nothing. And you want to wait till you have that good trace before you add your scent. Otherwise, you lose your scent from the chemical breakdown. Oh, and that smells so good. Very much like... Whoa. And that happens. You get splattered. Apparently I didn't burp it good enough. Just goes to show the things that can happen. So we're at... See, notice my trace changed. It's a lot lighter now. Because I added that. So that's great. At least I know this brand of scent doesn't affect my texture. Because it's okay if it makes it have not as much trace. You just don't want it hardening instantly. Okay, so it's all incorporated. So I'm going to set this over here. So I grabbed my mold here. You can get these molds anywhere. You can make molds. You can do different things. And
we got ours off Amazon.
Yeah, these are off of Amazon. And you're going to pour. It looks like I'm going to have a little extra, which is fine. I have other molds I can use. So you want to kind of tap it down. And I'll set it, and that gets the air bubbles out of it. And I've got these little fun seashell-y shapes, so why not use those for what I have left? I wish I had little pumpkins or something.
Or like Christmas ornaments or something.
Yeah.
It would fit perfectly for the season.
Oop, that one went a little full. These sticks here. So this one kind of overfilled, but I don't want it to be uneven. So I'm just going to, it's going to end up wasting a little bit. But I want a flat surface there. So I'd rather waste a little bit of it
Then waste a ton.
than lose that whole bar. We're going to tap it down. Make sure nothing's too high. And these silicone molds are great. So we're going to set this off to the side here and see if this has come up a little bit so we can do our fun little designs on it. But my trace was pretty low. I prefer pouring it when my trace isn't super high because it gives me time. So sometimes I make a really big batch and I need time to separate different colors and scents and all that stuff. So I prefer it to have a lighter trace when I pour it. And it's starting to give me my swirl. So you can do whatever you want. It's not really holding much. So I might let it go a little bit longer here. And then I can do some designs. It doesn't take much. Doesn't take much time. While I have some time, I might be able to scrape enough out of this to get this other one full. Let's see. Then I won't have to waste any. And these are just fun little decorative soaps.
Perfect for gifts or just to have as decoration in your bathroom.
Yeah, you can have them on trays in your bathroom and you can smell this soap just from having it sit out. So that's going to be a little smaller of a bar, but it'll work. Better than wasting it.
Could use it as like a facial bar or something. Since it's smaller.
So now let's see. There we go. Now we're getting a little more trace. Not great trace. But it is getting harder. So I'm going to continue to play with this. when it gets to the right consistency and I get the design I want on the top, then I'll be done. So I hope you enjoyed watching me make the soap. Like say, wasn't perfect. We had a couple instances, but just goes to show what can go wrong. Thankfully, when it did splatter, it didn't get on my skin or anything like that. You know, there were no burns, but it could have. So, you know, always, especially, you know, if you're a first time, things like that, definitely wear the gloves, you know, do all that stuff. Research it. Make sure you know what you're doing because that lye can really be dangerous. So I'm going to finish this up. Mackenzie's back there kind of cleaning up my splatter mess. And tomorrow when we cut it, we'll show you what it looks like. All right, so this is the soap we made on the video, the apple cider. I love the way it turned out. And then we also made a couple off camera. And those are right here. So we have a rose soap. And we have a black raspberry vanilla soap. So can't wait to cut into these. We've got these ones in the mold. And then we did one heart rose soap because Mackenzie wanted a rose soap in the shape of a heart. So let's get these out of the molds and get them cut. So these molds are great because you literally just pop them out. So that's so pretty. This is the one that I just did the last little bit. Don't mind my purple hands. I was doing hooves today on the goats. And they're still soft. And they need to cure for about 6 weeks. And then there'll be a nice hard bar that lasts quite a while. That turned out very pretty. All right, we're going to get these out. I'm going to have Elizabeth start to film real quick for me. Flip it up, it's easier. Alright, so to unmold these, you just peel it back. Love the color this bar turned out. So this bar here is really weird. So I stopped adding the coloring because it looked like a really ugly greenish gray color. So I was like, I'm not making it any darker. I don't want black in my soap. But it actually looks like it turned into a peach color when it mixed with the soap. So I will be curious, but it looks like there is some green too. So who knows? Maybe it'll be 3 colors when we cut into it.
It's kind of pretty though.
When it cures, we'll see what it looks like.
If it stays like that, it's kind of like camouflage.
But I got soap everywhere. You crinkle cut on all of them. I prefer the crinkle cut. So I always cut 1 inch off each side just to get it squared up. And I like the crinkle design, so. So this one's nothing fancy, just a solid color. But I still love the way it turned out, and it smells so good.
Keep it
Gonna get the ends all cut off, then I gotta adjust my measurement. That's interesting.
Trying to camouflage.
And as it cures, the colors will alter. So we won't know the exact color until it's fully cured. Interesting. Always make a mess when cutting soap. Wow, that is pretty. And every bar will have its own little design. All right, so now I have to adjust my measurement. And it's just your personal preference. I like them to be about 1.5 bars. I need my screwdriver to tighten that a little bit, so we'll just have to make sure it doesn't move on us. Or no, I do 2-inch bars. 2-inch bars, that looks more normal. It's been a bit since I cut soap, so. I'm going to let Kenzie cut these. Make sure you go straight down. Get it in here. A shard. Love that swirl. I definitely want to get a different style cutter, because this one, it works well. I don't know why that one came out. It looks thinner. But it's on 2 inches.
You want to hold this one out?
Yeah. Make sure it doesn't move. Keep it straight. So beautiful. All right, and we're just going to cut a few on video for you of each kind to show you. This one's not really going to change. It's going to look the same, but we'll cut some.
A little struggle for that one.
So they'll all look like this. And I'll clean off the other soap fragments. Let's do a few of these. Looks like it went crooked. Because I don't want to screw it around. So that's definitely interesting. I'll be curious, because the only areas that turned pink were the ones that were exposed to the air. So now that this is exposed to the air, I'll be curious to see what colors. Kenzie needs to build some muscles. All right, we'll do one more bar of this here. then
That was about
so there we go. So we'll see what these look like when they cure.